All right. So welcome to Getting Technical with Jack's Nutrients. I have our friend Manny here from Autopots, and he's going to talk to us today a little bit about their product and how, Jack's and their Autopots really work well together. So introduce yourself and kind of tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Thanks, Whitney. Thank you for having me on this. I am the sales director, the national sales director for Autopot USA. I deal with all our wholesalers. I also do high-level tech support and work with our commercial accounts. I've been with Autopot since around 2016, early 2016. So it's been been about like 8-9 years now with the company, and in that time, there's been a lot of growth in the U.S. with Autopot. I could say 10 years ago, most people really wouldn't know an Autopot if you asked them about it, and now that's changed completely. So we're very happy with where we are in that amount of time.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I'll tell you from our standpoint, we get a lot of people using your product that want to know how to use Jack's and Autopots together. I'd say it's probably one of the biggest questions that we get most frequently. So it's been cool to kind of watch you guys grow. We run into each other at trade shows and everything too, which is kind of neat to see us kind of rubbing shoulders out in the industry. So great. So tell us a little bit about the Autopots and why you guys saw a need for this product coming into the industry.
Yeah, well, look, the Autopot system is an automated feed system, but it's an automated feed system that doesn't use any electricity. So there's no pumps, there's no timers, there's nothing to plug in. We rely solely on gravity and a double float valve. We call it an aqua valve. So here's a picture of it right here. You can see, and here's the two floats, right? So what we do is there'll be a centralized reservoir. You can use one of ours, or you can use your own as long as it's tapped on the bottom. You'll fill it up with water or nutrient solution. You'll open up the tap, and we gravity feed out to our pots or tray systems. We have tray systems as well. And when we hit the pots, that's when we hit the valve. And this valve allows the plants to feed themselves. And what it's doing is it's filling the tray to a 3/4 inch level. So that's this inner float right here. So as that float comes up, it's going to cut off the supply of water into the tray at that 3/4 inch level, right? Simultaneously, this upper float will rise as well. That exposes this hole on top so we can push the air up out of the center chamber. Now, we've effectively cut off the water into the tray. As the plant feeds, this upper float will fall, and when it does, it covers that hole up, creating a vacuum inside of this chamber. Now we have, again, that level of water sitting there. The plant will feed. When there's nothing left in the tray, it almost dries up. It breaks the seal here at the bottom, and the float opens again. So what we've done is we've allowed plants to dictate their rate of feed based off their own consumption. So in doing so, we've created a constant feed system that is passive, right? So there's many ways to achieve automation and constant feed and constant availability of water and nutrients out there, but very difficult to find passive ones, and passive ones that have the capacity to feed, that which we are able to feed, and also provide the specific watering to each plant, right? Because each plant will have its own aqua valve addressing the specific need of that plant. So again, what we're doing is trying to get the best of both worlds, right? The best of automation, the best of hydroponic feeding, with passive feeding, right? And when we do something passively, there's just less variables to mitigate. So what we offer at Autopot is a very easy way to automate feed to your plants. And once the plants are on the system, they respond very quickly. Once they realize they have an unlimited source of water, nutrients, it's just, they shoot up, they explode.
Yeah. That's really cool because I feel like in this case, we at Jack's, we're always telling people, trust your plants. Like they will tell you what they need. They will tell you what's too much, what's not enough. So this is a really cool way of letting the plants kind of decide for themselves exactly how much they want to take up. Now, do you find this creating heavy feeders out of that, or do they kind of, because it's always there, they're not like racing to take it up?
Well, there is something that a lot of our growers call like the Autopot jump, and the Autopot stretch. So like when you first on the system, you're going to see visible growth, very visible growth in just 24 hours, 48 hours. So it's something that you need to plan for and be ready for. There's certain people, certain crops where people will turn the system off. They feel that, the plants are vegging too quickly. They're getting to a certain size too quickly or stretching too much. And that option's always there, as it is with any other system, but in general, by far the result is very good. I mean, people adjust to it very quick. And, there's a lot of breeders that work with our system, and they all tell us the same thing. These are the biggest plants I've ever got with my genetics. This is why I need to use Autopot. This is why I continue to pheno hunt with Autopot. Because of what I see with the system.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to, same thing we always say: feed your plants, they're going to be happy,
Yeah.
And I think maybe they can get a little too happy with all their good nutrients from Autopots, but no, that's super cool. That, I mean, it's a good problem to have. All my veg plants are just too big. I can't
Right.
even do this anymore.
Exactly.
Darn. Cool. So what benefit do you guys find from the bottom watering system through the full cycle?
Well, so bottom feeding, first and foremost, this is a zero waste system. And it's a zero waste system because it's a sub-irrigated system. Every drop of water that we're putting in that tank is ending up in that pot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's very, very efficient, most of all, and others would say as well that it's a little more natural. We've gotten so used to, conventional irrigation, which is all top drip, top feed,
Right.
in our world. But in the natural world, plants take up from the bottom. They take up from the water table. It'll rain, water will come in, but that water is generally available under the plant, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's very efficient, zero waste. It's a little more natural for the plant. A root system in an autopot is going to develop differently than a root system in a plant that's being hand watered and top fed, as opposed to where the feeder roots are and things of that nature. So the plants adapt. And then, there's little things like, guys that are, using mineral salt based fertilizers. A lot of the residual salts, and this is something that people need to be clear of with autopots. A lot of people think, there's no runoff. Is there going to be a toxic level of salts in the pot? And what's happening is in the pot, as the plant feeds and the media wakes up, all the residual salts are pulled to the very top of the pot. So the plant really has no access to them at the top of the pot. And a lot of times it creates a nice, thick, crusty layer of salts, which is almost a barrier for certain pests that want to get up in the root zone. So there's like some residual things that are beneficial that happen, but more than anything, and the biggest thing we preach with our system is efficiency and no waste, and that's what we're getting through sub irrigation.
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of everybody's goal with hydroponics, is to try to get yourself to a point where you're able to reuse that water. There's so many people that collect all their runoff, they retreat it, they run it back through again. You have all of your recirculating systems, and it just seems the best way to do it. There's so many places in the country that just don't have regular water sources that they can just use as much as they want all the time. So I think this is a really cool thing, even for like home growers, because then, you're not running through tons of nutrients all the time and having to like reweigh everything. It's just like, it's there, it's readily available.
No. And I mean, listen, I get numbers back, especially from like some of our guys growing crops, in other countries where, they're saving upwards of 50% in water usage than they were with other conventional forms of irrigation, which is amazing, and also there's, certain municipalities throughout the United States that are not allowing runoff back into the sewage system, so there's facilities out there that are having to set up water treatment before they can throw things back in, or reusing it. And having a system that is zero waste just eliminates even any worry or need for that. You can save a lot of money. So we actually have, sometimes there'll be a facility or a mid-tier grower that'll reach out to us and say, hey, listen, I don't know what to do. I've been looking around. I can't run off into my system anymore. I needed to find something. You guys are the only thing that'll fit because it's a zero waste system. So sometimes we fit into the equation because of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, like I said, you give it to the plant, it takes it up, and you just keep going until it's good. So I love that. I think that's such an interesting way to go about it, and to really deep dive into, like you said, that's how it feeds in nature. We're not reinventing the wheel here. This is not,
Right.
this isn't some crazy new innovation. I mean, it is, but at the same time, you're just kind of tapping into what Earth is already doing for these plants and kind of trying to replicate that. So,
right. We keeping it simple is a good way to go. Sometimes growers want to overcomplicate things, and there really is no reason for it. Because ultimately, we got to remember, what our goals are, and keeping the main thing. So if there's a simplistic way to go about achieving your goals and getting the best results you can, then of course that's the best way. And just to expand on that too, like I think that's what Jax brings to the table a lot of the time too. We're talking about something that's simple and works very well,
Yeah.
and the two together, I mean, that's, you're getting one of the easiest systems to use and a great line that's easy to use and works so well. So, I mean, there's good synergy in those two things together, which we've seen a lot between our mutual customers.
Yeah, that's great. And I mean, I'll tell you, even though I work for a fertilizer company, I get tired of feeding my plants all the time. So, my tomatoes and my peppers, they grow all year round, and it just gets exhausting keeping up on top of it. So I may start looking into some Autopots of my own to kind of keep that stuff going.
I already got you. We're gonna be ready for next spring. I'm sending you.
I'm ready for it. That's awesome.
To grow for your backyard. I got
you. We'll show you all the good stuff we can grow with it then.
Cool. Oh, yeah.
So when it comes to topping off the tank, obviously it kind of burns through itself, and most times you're just going to kind of use through that. Do you recommend topping off the tank, or do you recommend just waiting until it is completely empty and just mixing a whole new reservoir every time?
So, it's up to the grower. And my advice on this for a lot of guys is, well, if your nutrient regimen isn't changing, right? If you're not going into like, a new week of nutrients and the ratios are changing, if we're sticking to the same nutrient regimen, then by all means top off. Be mindful, if you're going to top off consecutively, that you can, it's not always as sanitary as dumping the tank, cleaning it, refilling it. But if the nutrient regimen is the same, by all means top off. I do. It's fine. Most growers do, and not just in this system, and other hydroponic and other feeding systems as well. If there is a switch in the nutrient lineup, though, then it is going to be more advantageous to let the tank, run itself almost dry. Now, our tanks, our taps are located not at the bottom of the tank, but a little bit above. So, and this is just so, if there is any sediment that's falling out of solution, it's not ending up in the lines, ends up right at the bottom of the tank in that last few inches of water. Yeah. And so if you are going to let the tank run down, it's going to still have about an inch or so or two of water in it, and you'll have to dump that and use it for house plants or whatever you want to do, and then clean the tank, refill. But if the nutrient regimen is staying the same, I would just top off.
Yeah, and like I know with 3-2-1, we stay the same across the board with that. So I mean, it's super easy. You can kind of throw that all together and just top off.
It's a really clean lineup too. So a lot of the worries that you have with some of these other lineups aren't there with Jax. So it becomes even easier. I mean, the decision's almost made for you there. It's just, Yeah.
I mean, I'm excited. So we're gonna do some fun stuff together over the next couple of months. We'll put together a feed chart for everybody so that they know exactly what they're doing with Jax and Autopots, and we can look into some other fun collaborative stuff that we may do down the line. But I think this is a really, really cool partnership. Just even having these conversations, like I said, so much of our week is questions about how do I use it with Autopots? What do I do with this? And honestly, it's one of our favorite questions because it's so easy for us that we're like, well, you use Jax the way you would use Jax, and use Autopots the way you use Autopots. Like there's very, very little variation, and not enough that would really throw anybody's plants for a loop.
Uh-huh.
But I
You know,
think getting like the detail really set down for everybody will be really cool in the future.
yeah, yeah. We're gonna do a grow with Jax on our YouTube channel. Pat's gonna do it, so we'll show people the power of Jax. And one thing I do want to touch on quickly, because it's one of the main questions that we're gonna get from growers is nutrient levels. And I know that we're working on a feed chart, but one thing just for everybody to be mindful of in a constant feed system with constant availability, just like other systems like deep water culture and things of that nature, we want to tone down the EC, right? So just general pointers for everyone, if they are using the product, and they're trying to stay under about 1.4 EC in veg and under 2.2 EC in flower. Those are general guidelines with it, and we're going to get more specific as we tune in onto the feed chart. But with my history, with all the guys using Jax in our system, it's been nothing but ease and success.
Good.
Little
Good.
here and there if they're overfeeding, but that's the big thing to worry about is just don't overfeed. Less is more, and and listen to your plants, as you were saying. Your plants are gonna tell you which way to go.
Well, I think that's awesome because that's even more of a way to save money. Like you said, these people are using, sometimes half the salts that they were using before, when
Right.
feeding. And so if
Right.
you kind of have this, to me, in my mind, it's like a perfect equation of you have this kind of set it and forget it product. Like, you can use Jax, you use less of Jax than you would normally use. And our shelf life is stable. So, if you buy, just a quick little A and B setup, you've got your run through for those of us who only have, one or two plants at home or whatever have you, or, even
Yeah.
just your house plants. I know a lot of people that run autopots for vegetables, different fruit trees and things like that. So I think that, like you said, it's just a cool system. I like that you built it so that if there is a little bit of fallout, that none of that's going to get caught up in your lines. But I mean, for the most part, we tend to run pretty clean.
Yeah.
Do you find that there's any difference between like the liquid and the dry nutrients when running through it? Do you recommend kind of the same, just like dial down the EC, same steps, just
All down EC. No. I mean, listen. NPK is NPK. Just with the dry stuff, you want to make sure that you're dissolving it properly, right? And I know you guys have, protocol on that to make sure that people are mixing properly and making sure everything goes into solution. And as long as it does, you're good to go. I mean, I don't really see, if anything, there's pros to dry because of the shelf life.
yeah.
Stability of it.
Yeah, I've always liked that about it because I don't go through a ton of plant food. I mean, I
Yeah.
do feed my plants, pretty regularly, but I have no need for 25-pound bags sitting around.
Not yet. Not yet.
So the last big question I have for you, and I will asterisk this by saying we are not saying that you have to flush or that you should not flush. But my question is, if you
Yeah.
would choose to flush, how would you do that in an Autopot system? What's the best way to kind of go about that?
Well put. The comment section can pop off on that question sometimes. So you gotta have that.
Don't come at either of us, okay?
Yeah. So yeah, in the system, you'd flush, when you normally flush, and for the duration of time you normally flush. Normally, just the way you approach, the way you've grown previously, you would do in the Autopot system, and you just do it through the tank.
Okay.
So we don't
So
want to
flush
top
from the
feed.
bottom still?
Yeah, we don't want to top feed ever in the system once we've began bottom feeding with mineral salt based fertilizers, because again, those residual salts are going to work their way up to the top of the pot. So if you were to top feed, you'd be throwing those salts back down, right? So we once we start bottom feeding, we continue to bottom feed when we're using fertilizer. Now, and what happens is we'll fill the tank with water or water to flushing agent, and that'll pass through. We'll sub irrigate, and it'll come up the pot, and it'll do everything it's supposed to. Actually, it's almost more efficient that way. So you're doing it when you normally do it, and for the duration of time you normally do it. Just apply it to this system, and you're good to go. And if it's not something you do, then don't worry about it.
Exactly. Don't worry about it.
One other thing I'll say to just anybody, if you do have any questions, ever, regarding this or anything else, you can always reach out to us at info@autopot-usa.com or DM us on Instagram and we reply to everyone. It might take, a day or two, but you will always get a reply, maybe even a call. We're happy to help. So please reach out if you have any questions.
That's great. That's really awesome. I mean, we at Jax, we have the same thing. You can reach out to our tech line. You can always DM me on the social media account. If, when I get back to you, if I don't have the answer for you, I will find it, or I will find somebody who will. But I think having that open line of technical conversation is super helpful. So it's great to know that you guys have that customer service. You're open to talking to people, and everybody's gonna get a conversation. So that's awesome. Anything else you want to share with us, or?
So no, that was it. I did want to say, just, reach out if anybody has questions. I look forward to, to some of the stuff that we're going to be doing together and providing a little more guidance for our growers. And thank you again for having me on here.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for doing this. These are a lot of fun. I love kind of collabing with people in the industry who are kind of running into a lot of the same conversation that we are. So this is really cool. I've learned a lot about Autopots. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't realize that it wasn't an electrical system. I always assumed that it was a plug-in system. So I think that that's hopefully, something huge that people take away from this, because I had no idea you don't need,
We're the greenest system out there. The greenest, all recycled plastics. We use no electricity, no carbon
didn't know
footprint.
that either.
Zero wastewater. Less fertilizer. No phosphates back into the sewage or into the environment. So
yeah, that's super rad.
Yeah,
I love it. Very cool. Well, this was really good to meet you and have this conversation. And, I can't wait to see where this goes from here. And right now I'm going to go back to the shipping office, and I'm going to send you your fertilizer so we can get Pat some plant food to
we'll
feed.
come back on, and we'll have another one once he's almost done. Once we have those plants, like, a week or two till harvest, and we can talk about the grow and some of the other, we get a little more technical and in depth on exactly what we did.
Yeah, for sure. So, guys, follow us both on YouTube. We will have different conversations. This will be on both of our YouTube pages, and then they'll do a series using Autopots and Jax, and we can get everything posted for everybody who's got questions then. Okay?
Love it. Love it. Thank you, Whitney.
Yeah, great. Have a good one, Manny. Take care.
Bye-bye. Thanks.